It's nearly 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. You're sitting in the car, the engine's off, and the garage door is already closed. You should be inside by now. You can see the kitchen light under the door, but you aren't moving. You're just staring at the dashboard. In the silence, there's this loop playing. It's a 5-second clip of a conversation from the pub you just left. You spent the night surrounded by people who've known you for years, who hadn't heard the news yet. You were standing at the bar, drink in hand, when someone looked at you with that casual, easy interest and asked the question that's started to feel like a tripwire. So, how's work? You guys still busy over there? And before you even had a second to find your breath, you noticed something strange. Your mouth just took over. It was like 30 years of muscle memory kicked in. You heard your own voice sounding steady and professional, saying, "Oh, you know how it is, flat out. Always another fire to put out." But now, sitting here in the dark, your stomach is doing something different. That sentence feels heavy, like you've swallowed something made of lead. It starts to feel like you're being followed by a ghost. You're haunted by a version of yourself that had a desk and a title. And you're sitting there wondering if without him, the driver's seat is actually empty. When you've been one thing for most of your life, it's not just a job anymore. It's in the way you stand. It's in the way you check your phone every 11 minutes at a party, even though you know there's nothing waiting for you. You notice your shoulders still carry the weight of being the subject matter expert, the person people came to for the answers. Then the redundancy happens. The laptop goes back in the box. There's this thing where your mouth is still running the old software. When someone asks about work, you might feel this sudden sharp flicker of panic. Look at the empty Monday mornings, the silence in the house, the way the LinkedIn feed feels like a graveyard, and you just can't bear the exposure. So you reach for the mask. It's not even a choice, it's a reflex. You perform the professional because the alternative is to stand there and admit you're drifting, that you're currently nowhere. The regret you feel in the car later isn't really about the lie. It's more the feeling of defending a fortress that's already been cleared out. You're protecting a version of yourself that doesn't exist anymore. And you can feel the weight of holding up that mask starting to actually break something inside. It's a bit more complicated when you're with the people who actually know. You're at dinner with your wife and old friends. They're trying to be supportive. So they ask, "Do any leads? What's the plan?" And suddenly you aren't a veteran with over 30 years of experience. You feel like a kid again. You notice your shoulders tightening, your voice getting a bit sharper, a bit more defensive. You hear yourself snapping back with something cynical like, "I'm taking some time for myself, I've earned it." Or, "The market's just trash right now, there's no point in even looking." You walk away from that table feeling like a stranger to yourself. You're fuming, but you know that cynical guy isn't you. He's just a shield you threw up because the in between felt too wide. It's like you're stuck between the person you were and something else that hasn't arrived yet. In that space, every social interaction starts to feel like a deposition you've already lost. You'd start to wonder why that sting of regret is so persistent. Why you can't just let the pub comment go. When you say, "I'm flat out" to an old mate, but you know you're heading back to a house where the phone hasn't rung in 3 days, that friction hurts. It feels like your body is literally rejecting the lie. It starts to feel like that discomfort is a sign of life. It's a signal that the real you, the one sitting in the quiet, is tired of being ignored while the professional takes all the credit. You start to notice how much energy it takes to keep painting that picture. You're so busy trying to look like you're still hitting milestones that you aren't actually seeing what the silence is trying to show you. You might find that the only way the haunting stops is when you stop the autopilot. You notice that the next time you're out and someone reaches for the old "who are you" hook, you just don't bite. Give yourself a couple of seconds. In those first few seconds, you can actually feel the old script rushing to your lips. You can feel the desperate urge to say you're consulting or keeping busy. You feel the sheer tension of not having an answer. And then you just let it sit there. And occasionally something different comes out. If you don't reach for the mask, you might actually hear yourself saying, "Actually, I'm in a pretty strange spot. I'm figuring out what life looks like after 30 years of the grind. It's a lot quieter than I expected it to be." The air in the room changes when that happens. It gets a bit less smooth, gets a little heavier, maybe a little awkward. But you notice what happens when you get back in the car later, when you're sitting in that driveway again. The silence is just silence. The loop stops playing. There isn't an echo of a lie following you into the house. You aren't corporate professional anymore, but you don't feel like a ghost either. You're just a man sitting in a car, finally listening to the quiet, and you start to notice the silence isn't as empty as it was. It starts to feel less like a mistake, more like something you can't quite ignore. Maybe you'll notice that the next time you answer, it might be for the person who's actually standing there, even if you aren't entirely sure who that is yet. I'll see you in the next one.